We'll continue to follow it. Here to discuss national trial attorney Michael Jaafar. He's in the state of Michigan with a pensive look on his face. What are you thinking, sir?
This is insane. I can't believe what some people are capable of. And then admitting to it, and then getting arrested, and then the ex-husband. This is insane. Whenever we have these crazy trials, Ted, I always tell myself, well, we better analyze the heck out of this one, because probably another one isn't, probably someone like it is not going to show up again. And then here you go, former Microsoft exec, beautiful family, beautiful life, taking care of his kids from his prior marriage. And then he gets executed after dropping off a kid. It's crazy. I'm really, unfortunately, this is very, very, very sad, but I'm looking forward to analyzing this and seeing the evidence as it comes out. The state attorney seems confident. He's telegraphing that, hey, she had a significant role in the execution of her ex-husband. But what would go through your mind to kill the father, to cooperate in the execution of the father of your children? How do you benefit yourself? And he was clearly making money. He was supporting you, supporting his kids. This is absolutely a test into the human psyche and the depths that some people go to get to this point.
Absolutely, yeah. You think about their battles. They both moved on. They both had other partners, and they were navigating the post-divorce battles over children and time and custody. So now these kids have nobody. They've got a mom in jail facing the death penalty and a dead father over what? Over Tuesdays, or every other weekend, or someone wants to move out. I mean, it is horrible to think about what was going through their minds, that this was a good idea. Oh yeah, I got a guy. We'll kill him. That should solve the problem.
And you saw the picture of the guy too. I mean, he clearly wasn't the type of person you could trust. Word to anyone out there who's thinking of cooperating in the murder of a person, it's 2023. Nobody gets away with anything. The government has technology to track every single thing we do and say, no matter what it is. They can track our thoughts. So just don't do it. Just don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it. That's good advice, and people just don't take it. They can't stop themselves. It's horrifying. Another horrifying case. All right, well, let's get a break in here. Right now, we are getting ready for that Ohio sentencing hearing. The Ohio teenager who rammed a car into a brick wall, causing the deaths of her 2 passengers. It's a very emotional case. We're going to see what the judge is going to do here. We're going to hear likely from the families of those that lost their loved ones, and Mackenzie Shirilla is going to find out what her fate is. It's going to be emotional. Get ready. Here we go. What to do with Mackenzie Shirilla? Michael Jaafar's watching along. He's in Michigan. This is taking place in Ohio. What do you think should be done here? Of course, the victim families want consecutive sentences. They want her to be eligible for parole after 30 years rather than 15. Your thoughts?
I'm proud of that attorney. I actually have an office in Cuyahoga County. I know who that person is. He's a good attorney. I think the best and most emotional defense of the defendant at this point, because we're in the sentencing phase, was her mom. Her mom actually explained what was behind the TikTok, because before her mom came up, I, pretty sure like anybody else, was offended by the TikTok posts. Because they were clearly after the accident. They were within 3 months after the accident. So I was shocked, that I thought to myself, well, she has had no remorse. Her mom came up and explained those posts, and then I thought to myself, okay, there is always a second side to the story I didn't understand. And then her attorney talking about the possibility of recidivism and that it's low with his client, that also swayed me, because at the end of the day, you're supposed to correct someone's behavior. These 2 people lost their lives. He was correct. She's going to get flopped at least once. So even if she serves these sentences consecutively, concurrently, she's still going to be in jail for at least 20 years. And to get out within 20 years, she has to prove to the parole board that she's a good person. So I was convinced and swayed by the oration of her mom and her defense attorney, that in my opinion, it should be a concurrent sentence, where she serves the 15 years at the same time, because she's going to be in there for at least 20 years. At least with good behavior, she'll be out in 20 years. This happened when she was 17. This is sad. This is awful. And one more thing I'll say, Ted, when I was young, I'm sure like anybody else, I got behind the wheel. I got in cars with other people. Now, when I look back at it, I don't know if I'll be comfortable seeing my kids get in the car with other kids, because I got in the car with other kids and they drove like madmen, right? And they drove and they weaved in and out of traffic, and we were young, and I didn't understand. I didn't appreciate the danger of it at the time. Nobody would do that right now. If I was in the car with somebody right now, I've got my seatbelt on, they've got their seatbelt on, they're obeying traffic signals. But I'm a 44-year-old man. When I was 17, my friends were 17, we were weaving in and out of traffic. I still don't know how we're alive. We're just lucky. That doesn't mean that she drove into a brick wall at 100 miles an hour. I was never involved in that, obviously, but I know people who were, and they survived. Kids do dumb things. She did a really dumb thing, and people died. I've been swayed by these two people, by the mom and the defense attorney, that she should serve these sentences concurrently.
All right, we'll get a break and we will see what the judge decides, what to do with Mackenzie Shirella. It's up to the judge. We'll find out her decision right after this. The judge, but she has made the decision agreeing with the defense that this defendant should be eligible for parole after 15 years. So she will serve these two murder convictions concurrently at the same time. She had a choice. The state asked for it. The other families asked for them to be conserved consecutively, meaning she wouldn't have been eligible for parole until 30 years. But the judge decided that this is up to the parole board and, as she said, up to the defendant herself. She'll be eligible for parole after 15 years. Doesn't mean she'll be out on parole after 15 years. Michael Jaafar has been watching along with us, and decision by the judge. I'm sure that some people are not pleased, thinking that she maybe this was too light of a penalty, but in totality, this is a kid with no criminal record and a kid, 17 years old at the time, 19 now. Your thoughts?
I was surprised, but I agree with the judge. I think it was a right call. The reason I'm surprised is because the judge was cutting off her mom when her mom was giving her speech to the judge, and she cut her off a lot, and she kind of disparaged her, and what do you mean? Well, what about this person? What about that person? So I was shocked that the judge went with this recommendation by the defense attorney, but I agree with her. I think the defense attorney did an awesome job, and he brought us all back to childhood, right? Because, hey, this judge, like all of us, she was 17 at one point, right? And she doesn't look like an old lady, so I'm sure she can recall what it was like to be 17, a 17-year-old girl. The judge is a girl, and the defendant is a girl, and so the judge must have told herself, look, I was a 17-year-old girl at one point. I would get heartbroken by boys. I had, I never drove a car into a wall. That's, a first, but I'm sure that this judge had that weighing in her mind. And she thought to herself, if I make her serve these consecutively, she's going to need about 35 years minimum to get out. She's going to be in her 50s. I don't know how old the judge is. Again, I have an office in Cuyahoga County. I know who this judge is, but I'm sure she's somewhere in her 50s, and she thought to herself, imagine the distance between my life now and when I was 17 and I was in jail for a mistake I made, which was a split-second mistake. She must have thought that. And so I think the judge made the right decision. I'm surprised, but I'm happy she made this decision. So I think it was a right call.
What about the decision to go with a bench trial here? One would think that a juror or two would have been empathetic towards the young defendant, but they went with the bench trial.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you my thoughts on that. Sorry, Ted. There's a delay. That's why I wasn't cutting you off. I think it was the right decision. I'll tell you why. When I was younger, I was defending a person who was accused of rape, and I knew he was innocent. I knew he was. I knew from the bottom of my heart he was innocent. And another person was also charged with the same rape and the same incident, and he had hired another attorney. The attorney he hired was a very seasoned former judge. So this I wanted a jury trial, and this former judge told me we're taking a bench trial on this case because I know who this judge is, and I know that this judge is very fair, and I know that he will see through the BS of what the victim is accusing. We went with a bench trial. It was a serious case, and we won. And again, I was defending somebody that in the depths of my heart, he was innocent. But seasoned attorneys will do that from time to time. They will go with a bench trial because they will believe that a certain judge is going to be better than a jury. This is Cuyahoga County. Jurors are different than most of the country. This is Cleveland. And so I think it was the right decision. Obviously, she didn't get acquitted, but yeah, it didn't work. But I think the decision at the time, when a seasoned attorney decides to go with a bench trial, they've thought this through for weeks. And they know, because this attorney knows this judge, and he knows what she's made of. And I don't know, he might practice with her, but to go with a bench trial is a rare decision for a defense attorney to do. But when they do it, it's done with a lot of thought. So right. I think it was a good decision.
And at the end of the day, the sentencing was the most important component here. Likely she would have had the same fate from a jury trial. And she'll be eligible for parole after 15 years. We'll get a break in here. When we come back, the state of Ohio holds a press conference immediately following today's sentencing hearing. We'll hear what prosecutors have to say right after this. Hey, the county attorney there addressing the media after his team successfully came back with guilty verdicts in this case. It was a bench trial. At the end of the day, they seem to be very okay as well with the judge's decision today, mentioning that even if one of the family members didn't know what the correct decision would be, and the judge in this case, also with the name Russo, no relation, assuming, obviously, she said this is best served 15 to life. She'll be eligible after 15 years, will the defendant, and then it's up to a parole board. Michael Jaaffar's been watching along, and Michael, so, you know, after 15 years, she needs to demonstrate to a parole board that she is ready to re-enter society, meaning that over the next decade and a half, she's going to have to comport herself in a certain manner.
Yeah, she has to show them that she has been rehabilitated and that her chance of reoffending is nothing, and that she appreciates her conduct and what she did. Basically, it's got to be a mea culpa. And I don't think this girl will have an issue doing that because this is her first offense. This was something that happened in a split second. She was a kid when it happened. So I don't think she's going to have a difficult time. I mean, there are people who have committed, heinous crimes. By the time they, reach the parole board, they have a record and they still are able to get out. So I don't think she's going to have an issue doing it. I agree with the prosecutor. I mean, he said something that, I agree with. He said even one of the parents of the victims didn't even know what the sentence should be. And that's what we've all noticed. How do you sentence a 17-year-old kid for something like this? She doesn't even know what happened, and I believe it. She was in the hospital for weeks. So, and what was her motive? He didn't say that, but what I was thinking to myself is, what motive did she have to do this other than potential suicide? But nobody discussed the motive. She didn't stand to gain from this in any way, shape, or form. This was a senseless act of violence, where she was involved as well. So I think it was the right sentence, and I think she'll probably be out in 20 years.
20? You don't think she'll be eligible, or she'll make it to her first at 15?
Everybody gets flopped once. Everybody gets flopped once. I don't have the statistics in front of me. I don't want to say no one has ever gone out right on time. But, in my training as a young attorney, we're trained, hey, listen, nobody ever gets out on the first attempt at parole. Ever. And I've had clients who've had seasoned former parole officers coach them and teach them and train them and spend weeks. And these are obviously when they have wealthy family members, they will have the best of the best educating them, teaching them, preparing them, visiting them in jail, telling them exactly what to say and how to say it, and they still don't get out on the first attempt at parole. I could be surprised. She could be out in 15 years. Hey, if she's out in 15 years, she's 34 years old, right? So she's a young person at that, very young person at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my thoughts.
All right, well, let's get a break in here.